10 kingdoms, invasions from the north. When at the present day we take a general survey of the world's past history, we see that by a species of fatality, by law, that is, whose workings we cannot trace, there issue from time to time out of the frozen bosom of the north vast hordes of uncouth savages, brave, hungry, countless, who swarm into the fairer southern regions determinedly, irresistibly, like locusts swinging their flight into a green land. How such multitudes come to be propagated in countries where life is with difficulty sustained, we do not know. Why the impulse suddenly seizes them to quit their old haunts and move steadily in a given direction, we cannot say, but we see that the phenomenon is one of constant recurrence, and we therefore now scarcely regard it as being curious or strange at all. In Asia, Cimmerians, Scythians, Parthians, Mongols, Turks; in Europe, Gauls, Goths, Huns, Avars, Vandals, Burgundians, Lombards, Bulgarians, have successively illustrated the law, and made us familiar with its operation, the 5 great monarchies of the ancient Eastern world. George Rawlinson, M.A., The Second Monarchy, Chap. 9, Volume 2, p. 221. York, Dodd, Mead D. Company, 10 Kingdoms. See Isaac Newton on their location in Western Europe. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. And therefore all the 4 beasts are still alive, though the dominion of the 3 first be taken away. The nations of Chaldea and Assyria are still the first beast. Those of Media and Persia are still the second beast. Those of Macedon, Greece and Thrace, Asia Minor, Syria and Egypt, are still the third. And those of Europe, on this side Greece, are still the fourth. Seeing therefore the body of the third beast is confined to the nations on this side the river Euphrates, and the body of the fourth beast is confined to the nations on this side Greece, we are to look for all the 4 heads of the third beast, among the nations on this side of the river Euphrates, and for all the 11 horns of the fourth beast, among the nations on this side of Greece. And therefore, at the breaking of the Greek Empire into 4 kingdoms of the Greeks, we include no part of the Chaldeans, Medes, and Persians in those kingdoms, because they belong to the bodies of the 2 first beasts, nor do we reckon the Greek Empire seated at Constantinople, among the horns of the fourth beast, because it belonged to the body of the third. Observations upon the prophecies of Daniel and the Apocalypse of St. John, Sir Isaac Newton, Part 1, Chap. 4, pp. 31, 32. London, J. Darby and T. Brown, 1733. 10 Kingdoms, Boundaries of Western Rome. I would therefore beg the reader to trace on the map the frontier line of the Western Empire as drawn by Gibbon, beginning north from the wall of Antoninus that separated England from Scotland, then following the Rhine up to its point of nearest proximity to the Danube source, i.e., halfway between Strasbourg and Bâle, thence down the Danube to Belgrade, and thence in a southern course to Dyrrhachium, and across the Adriatic and Mediterranean to the Syrtis Major and the Great Desert of Africa. It is to be understood that all to the eastward of this line belonged to the Constantinopolitan or Greek division of the empire, all westward, including England, France, Spain, and African province, Italy, and the countries between the Alps and the Rhine, Danube, and Save, anciently known under the names of Raetia, Noricum, and Pannonia, in modern times as Switzerland, half Swabia, Bavaria, Austria, and the western part of Hungary. To the Western or Roman division, Horse Apocalyptic, Reverend D.B. Eliot, A. M. Volume Ill, p. 115, 3d edition. London, Seeley, Burnside, and Sealsea, 1847. 10 Kingdoms, tenfold division prominent in history. The historian Machiavel, without the slightest reference to this prophecy, gives the following list of the nations which occupied the territory of the Western Empire at the time of the fall of Romulus Augustulus, 476 A.D., the last emperor of Rome, the Lombards, the Franks, the Burgundians, the Ostrogoths, the Visigoths, the Vandals, the Heruli, the Swedes, the Huns, and the Saxons, 10 in all. p. 318. Amidst unceasing and almost countless fluctuations, The kingdoms of modern Europe have from their birth to the present day averaged 10 in number. They have never since the breakup of Old Rome been united into one single empire. They have never formed one whole, even like the United States. No scheme of proud ambition seeking to reunite the broken fragments has ever succeeded. When such have arisen, they have been invariably dashed to pieces, and the division is as apparent now as ever. Plainly and palpably inscribed on the map of Europe this day, it confronts the skeptic with its silent but conclusive testimony to the fulfillment of this great prophecy. Who can alter or add to this tenfold list of the kingdoms now occupying the sphere of Old Rome? Italy, Austria, Switzerland, France, Germany, England, Holland, Belgium, Spain, and Portugal, 10, and no more, 10, and no less. pp. 320, 321, The Divine Program of the World's History. H. Grattan Guinness, D. pp. 318-321. The 10 horns may not be strictly permanent, but admit of partial change. Some may perhaps fall or be blended, and then replaced by others. The tenfold character may thus be dominant through the whole, and appear distinctly at the beginning and close of their history, though not strictly maintained every moment. The following reasons may be given for this view. First, it avoids the opposite difficulties of the primary and the territorial definition of the kingdoms. It recognizes the kings as ruling powers, not local divisions, 3 of which may therefore be uprooted, yet it extends the fulfillment through the whole range of European history, instead of confining it to one corner of time. It also accounts for the same number, 10, being still found at the fall of mystic Babylon. Next, it has a direct warrant in the vision of the image. For these kings mingle themselves when the seed of men, but shall not cleave one to another. This implies temporary and partial union, and then renewed separation. And these changes will of course alter the list of actual kingdoms. Further, it results at once from the uprooting of 3 horns. For since after this the number is still 10, Rev. 17, 16, the 3 uprooted horns must have been replaced, and unless they are replaced in the same instant, there will be an interval in which the number is not exactly 10. Both a deviation, then, from the precise number, and a change in the kingdoms, is consistent with the emblems, and directly implied in them, the 4 prophetic empires and the kingdom of Messiah. The first 2 visions of Daniel, Rev. T. R. Burks, M.A., pp. 143, 144, 2d edition. London, Seeley, Burnside, and Beeley, 1845. Amidst fluctuations so numerous and unceasing as almost to defy an exact numeration, the prophetic description remains prominent, and a tenfold division of the Western Empire reappears from time to time. The correspondence with the prediction is thus accurate and complete, for it must be borne in mind that 2 opposite features had equally to be fulfilled. The tenfold number was to exist, but there was also to be a frequent intermingling with the seed of men. In the actual outline of European history, both of these predicted features are alike conspicuous. A tenfold division, such as some have looked for, mathematical and unvaried, would frustrate one half of the prediction, and would deprive the rest of all its freedom and moral grandeur. But now every part is alike accomplished. At the same time, by these partial changes in the list of the doomed kingdoms, the reproach of a stern fatalism, which otherwise would cloud the equity of divine providence, is rolled away. Id. p. 152. 10 kingdoms, exactness of the prophetic fulfillment. Even if it is not practicable to make out the number with strict exactness, or if all writers do not agree in regard to the dynasties constituting the number 10, we should bear in remembrance the fact that these powers arose in the midst of great confusion, that one kingdom arose and another fell in rapid succession, and that there was not that entire certainty of location and boundary which there is in old and established states. One thing is certain, that there never has been a case 38 in which an empire of vast power has been broken up into small sovereignties, to which this description would so well apply as to the rise of the numerous dynasties and the breaking up of the vast Roman power. And another thing is equally certain, that if we were now to seek an appropriate symbol of the mighty Roman power, of its conquests, and of the extent of its dominion, and of the condition of that empire about the time that the papacy arose, We could not find a more striking or appropriate symbol than that of the terrible fourth beast with iron teeth and brazen claws, stamping the earth beneath his feet, and with 10 horns springing out of his head. Commentary, Reverend Albert Barnes, on Daniel 7, p. 323. New York, Levitt and Allen, 1859. 10 Kingdoms, as enumerated in Thoughts on Daniel. Rome was divided into 10 kingdoms, enumerated as follows: the Huns, the Ostrogoths, the Visigoths, the Franks, the Vandals, the Suevi, the Burgundians, the Heruli, the Anglo-Saxons, and the Lombards. These divisions have ever since been spoken of as the 10 kingdoms of the Roman Empire. Daniel in the Revelation. Ryan Smith, p. 132. Washington, Review and Herald Publishing Association, 1907. Note: in the appendix to his Daniel and the Revelation, p. 785, edition of 1912, the author says of the various enumerations of the 10 kingdoms by old-time expositors, the 10 kingdoms which arose out of the old Roman Empire, are symbolized by the 10 horns on the fourth beast of Daniel 7. All agree on this point, but there has not been entire unanimity among expositors as to the names of the kingdoms which constituted these divisions. Some name the Huns as one of these divisions, others put the Alemanni in place of the Huns. That the reader may see the general trend of what has been written on this subject, the following facts are presented. Machiavelli, the historian of Florence, writing simply as a historian, names the Huns as one of the nations principally concerned in the breaking up of the Roman Empire. Among those who have written on this point with reference to the prophecy, may be mentioned, Berengid, in the 9th century, Mede, 1586–1638, Bossuet, 1627–1704, Lloyd, 1627–1717, Sir Isaac Newton, 1642–1727, Bishop Newton, 1704–1782, Hales, 1821, Faber, 1773–1854. Of these 9 authorities, 8 take the position that the Huns were one of the 10 kingdoms. Of these 8, 2, Bossuet and Bishop Newton, followed by Dr. Clarke, have both the Huns and the Alemanni. Only 1, Mede, omits the Huns and takes the Alemanni. Thus 8 favor the view that the Huns were represented by one of the horns. 2, while not rejecting the Huns, consider the Alemanni one of the horns. 1 rejects the Huns and takes the Alemanni. Scott and Barnes, in their commentaries, and Oswald, in his Kingdom That Shall Not Be Moved, name the Huns. Eds. 10 Kingdoms. Reference notes on Gibbon's list. Gibbon, in his Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, Harper's edition, gives the names of 10 kingdoms that arose in that empire, and the time when each arose, or in some instances, rather, the time when they broke into the empire. Eds. They are as follows: 1. The Alemanni, A.D. 351, Swabia, Alsace, and Lorraine. See Gibbon, Chap. 10, par. 26, 12, 20, 19, 20, 36, 5, 49, 22. 2. The Franks, A.D. 351, Northeast Gaul. Gibbon 19, 20, 36. 5. 3. The Burgundians, December 31st, A.D. 406, Gibbon 30, 17, located in Burgundy, A.D. 420, Gibbon 31, 39. 4. The Vandals, December 31st, A.D. 406, Gibbon 30, 17, located in Spain, A.D. 409, Gibbon 31, 36. Settled in Africa, A.D. 429, Gibbon 33, 35. 5. The Suevi, December 31st, A.D. 406, Gibbon 30, 17, in Spain, A.D. 409, Gibbon 31, 36. 6. The Visigoths, A.D. 408, Gibbon 31, 2, 14, in Southwest Gaul, A.D. 419, Gibbon 31, 39, in Spain, A.D. 467, Gibbon 36, 22, 38, 2, 29. 7. The Saxons entered Britain, A. D. 449, Gibbon 31, 41, 42, 38 hours 33 minutes, Greens England 1, 17, Knights England 5 to 6, 8, the Ostrogoths, in Pannonia, A. D. 453, Gibbon 35, 16, in Italy, A. D. 489, Final Conquest, A. D. 493, Gibbon 39, 7, 8, 9, the Lombards, A. D. 453, in Pannonia and Noricum, banks of Danube, Weber's Universal History, seconds, 180, Gibbon 42, 2, Encyclopaedia Britannica, Art, Lombards, in Lombardy, A. D. 567 8, Gibbon 45, 57, Machiavelli's History of Florence, Chaps 1, 2, 10, the Heruli, in Italy, A. D. 475 6, Gibbon 36, 28 33, The Sure Word of Prophecy, M. H. Brown, pp. 54, 55, Mountain View, Pacific Press Publishing Association, note. The figures immediately preceding the colon give the number of the chapter, and those which immediately follow the colon, the number of the paragraph, et. 10 Kingdoms, Dr. Eliot's 2 enumerations of. It will be obviously inconsistent with the requirements of the vision to antedate the list before the extinction of the Western Empire, A. D. 476, by Odoacer, for it was then first that a barbaric horn established its rule in the central province of Italy. Again, it seems equally inconsistent to postdate the list near a century after Odoacer, and include the Greek exarchate of Ravenna, then at length established, as one of the 10 horns of the Romano-Gothic beast. In fact, the eruption of the Greek imperial army among the Gothic horns, A. D. 533, whence the exarchate arose, and striking down 2 of them, the Vandal and the Ostrogothic, in Africa and Italy, appears to me to form almost as marked a chronological limit on the one side, as the establishment of Odoacer's Italic kingdom on the other. Between the two there lies but the interval of 57 years. And I think there presents itself in the history of the Franks that which yet further narrows the interval for investigation, for they, the most noted afterward, and perhaps most important of all the nations of the beast, could scarce be said to have formed a horn on the territory of the Western Empire, until, emerging from their Batavian island, they had under Clovis conquered in 486 Sagarius, the, so-called, king of the Romans, but in fact the then ruler of the natives and barbarians of Soissons and its neighborhood. On the whole, after consideration of all the circumstances of the case, I conclude to prefer the terminating point of this 47 years interval, i.e., A. D. 532 or 533, as the chronological epoch at which to make my enumeration. At the same time, a list of 10 kingdoms may be made with reference to the commencing point of the interval, i.e., A. D. 486-490, pp. 116, 117. From about the year 486 then to 490, the following were the existing barbaric kingdoms, formed by the invaders within the limits of the Western Empire: Anglo-Saxons, Franks, Almans, Burgundians, Visigoths, Suevi, Vandals, Heruli, Bavarians, Ostrogoths, 10 in all. I next take the Circa that immediately preceded Belisarius's invasion of Africa and Italy, that of A.D. 532, or the beginning of 533. Thus, in fine, there existed at the epoch of A.D. 532 the following 10 kingdoms on the platform of the Western Roman Empire, viz., the Anglo-Saxons, the Franks of Central, Alman Franks of Eastern, and Burgundic Franks of Southeastern France, the Visigoths, the Suevi, the Vandals, the Ostrogoths in Italy, the Bavarians, and the Lombards, still 10 in all. The most important difference between this and the former list is that there the Heruli had place among the 10, here the Lombards, the latter being numerically, though not as yet geographically, in the stead of the former. Such then is my second list, and that to which I conceive the sacred prophecy to have had respect, from the circumstances of the epoch being otherwise, as I shall soon have to show, very notable, horror-apocalyptic. Reverend E.B. Elliott, A.M., Volume 3, pages 116 to 122, Edition 3. 10 Kingdoms. Catholic recognition of. Even the Romanists themselves admit that the Roman Empire was, by means of the incursions of the northern nations, dismembered into 10 kingdoms. Comment on Revelation 13, 1, and he refers likewise to Berengade, Bossuet, and Dupin, Sinuten, p. 209, and Machiavelli, History of Florence, 1,4, with no design of furnishing an illustration of this prophecy, and probably with no recollection of it, has mentioned these names: 1. The Ostrogoths in Psa, 2. The Visigoths in Pannonia, 3. The Sueves and Alans in Gascogne and Spain, 4. The Vandals in Africa, 5. The Franks in France, 6. The Burgundians in Burgundy, 7. The Heruli and Torini in Italy, 8. The Saxons and Angles in Britain, 9. The Huns in Hungary, 10. The Lombards at first upon the Danube, afterward in Italy. Confintry, Reverend Albert Barnes, on Daniel 7, p. 322, New York, Levitt and Allen, 1859. 10 Kingdoms, Thoughts on Daniel on the Three Plucked Up. Eliot, in his Horse Apocalyptics, makes 2 enumerations of the 10 kingdoms which rose out of the Roman Empire, varying the second list from the first according to the changes which had taken place at the later period to which the second list applies. His first list differs from that mentioned in Remarks on Chap. 2, 42, only in that he put the Alemanni in place of the Huns, and the Bavarians in place of the Lombards, a variation which can be easily accounted for, but out of this list he names the 3 that were plucked up before the papacy. In these words, I might cite 3 that were eradicated from before the Pope out of the list first given, namely, the Heruli under Odoacer, the Vandals, and the Ostrogoths. Volume 3 p. 152. Note 1. Although he prefers the second list, in which he puts the Lombards instead of the Heruli, the foregoing is good testimony that if we make the enumeration of the 10 kingdoms while the Heruli were a ruling power, they were one of the horns which were plucked up. From the historical testimony above cited, see Daniel in the Revelation, pages 145 to 153, we think it clearly established that the 3 horns plucked up were the powers named, viz., the Heruli in A.D. 493, the Vandals in 534, and the Ostrogoths in 553, Daniel in the Revelation, Ryle Smith, p. 153, Washington, Review and Herald Publishing Association, 1907, 10 Kingdoms, Eliot on the 3 plucked up. For if it needed that the imperial power ruling at Rome should be removed, in order to the primary actual development of the Antichrist, agreeably with St. Paul's wonderful prophecy, the same necessity would obviously require the removal, in order to its fuller development, of such of the 10 horns as might have established themselves in the immediate neighborhood of Rome, and be in a condition, with the plenitude of their royal power, to oppress or overawe it. Now then, in looking at the list, the second list, given in my 4th chapter, we may mark 3 of the 10 kings as thus characterized. 1 might cite 3 that were eradicated from before the Pope out of the list first given, viz., the Heruli under Odoacer, the Vandals, and the Ostrogoths. But it is needless, the second list being, as I believe, the true one. Moreover, though the neighborhood of Odoacer could not but be unpleasant to the Pope, he does not appear to have overawed him, like Theodoric or the Lombards. A letter from Pope Gelasius, of the date 494, speaks of having successfully resisted Odoacer's wishes on certain ecclesiastical matters. Odoacro barbaro heretico, comalica non facienda prum superit, dio prostant, nullitinas permissis manifestum estate. Hard. 2. 914. Other expositors, Esperini, the Vato's minister, in his work on the Vatos, p. 54, have supposed the Herulian, Ostrogothic, and Lombard horns to be the 3 meant, but they were not contemporarily existent as horns of the beast. The Herulian had been destroyed, ere the Lombard had risen within the limits of the Roman Empire. First the Vandals, as rulers, within the Roman bishop's own diocese, of Corsica and Sardinia, secondly the Ostrogoths, the successors of Odoacer in the Kingdom of Italy, and thirdly, the Lombards, which last although in the year A.D. 533 referred to far distant in Pannonia, were some 30 or 40 years after destined to conquer Lombardy, and afterward to extend their conquests to the very neighborhood of Rome. The manner in which these several powers overawed the Roman bishops is matter of history. It was such as to make it evident that their removal from before it was essential to the full glory and expansion of the papal spiritual power, and accordingly their removal constitutes one of the most prominent topics in the next pages of the history of Western Christendom. First, in 533, just after Justinian's decretal epistle before quoted, the horn of the Vandals in Africa, Corsica, and Sardinia, and presently after, that of the Ostrogoths in Italy was rooted up by Justinian's forces under Belisarius, after which, and the establishment of the Greek exarchate at Ravenna, a power that can never properly, I conceive, be reckoned among the 10 horns of the prophetic beast, emerging as the latter are said to have done, one and all, out of the barbarian invading flood, the Lombards came in, just as if to neutralize the Greek emperor's power in that country, and prevent its domineering over the Pope at Rome, so as over the Patriarch at Constantinople, and for some years so divided the empire of Italy with them, as to allow of Gregory the Great and others acting independently the part of king, as well as of Pope, at Rome. At length in the course of the 8th century, the Lombard power altogether preponderating, and after the conquest of the Exarchate, A.D. 752, acting like its predecessors in Italy to overawe the Roman See, the assistance of the Franks was called in by Pope Stephen II and Adrian I, from their devoted Gallic province, and then the Lombard horn was eradicated through the instrumentality of Pepin and Charlemagne, just like those of the Vandals and the Ostrogoths previously, never again to be heard of in Christendom, and the Exarchate of Ravenna, together with other of the Lombard conquests, attached forever to the Roman See, under the very singular appellation of the Patrimony of Peter. Horse Apocalyptics, Reverend D.B. Eliot, A.M., Volume 3, pages 140 to 143, 3D edition, London, Seeley, Burnside and Seeley, 1847.